Good evening, one and all. We welcome you to the International Webinar Series on Holistic Health, Well-being and Sustainable Development 2022, commemorating Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, nation celebrating 75 years of independence, UN Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, 2015 to 2030 as part of awareness and campaigns in collaboration with Sri Holistic Health Foundation India and Sri Research Institute Center for Art, Sciences and Wellbeing. Before we start the sessions, let's take the blessings of Almighty.
कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शत्रुबुद्धिविनाशाय दीपज्योतिर्नमोऽस्तुते दीपज्योतिर्नमोऽस्तुते शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः.
With the blessings of Almighty, we shall continue to today's session. Today, as usual, we have important commemorations. Like today is International Anti-Corruption Day and also Genocide Prevention Day and International Day of Commemoration and Dignity of the Victims of the Crime of Genocide and of the Prevention of this Crime. And today is also International Day of Veterinary Medicine. And finally, today is also the day of Lost and Found Day in US. So there are various other commemorations, but due to paucity of time, we will try to cover within the time frame. So today is International Anti-Corruption Day, which is commemorated on 9th December every year. And this year, the theme is Uniting the World Against Corruption. So the world today faces some of its greatest challenge in many generations, challenges which threaten prosperity and stability for people across the globe. The plague of corruption is intertwined in most of them. Corruption has negative impacts on every aspect of society and is profoundly intertwined with conflict and instability, jeopardizing social and economic development and undermining democratic institutions and the rule of law. Corruption not only follows conflict, but is also frequently one of its root causes. It fuels conflict and inhibits peace process by undermining the rule of law, worsening poverty, facilitating the illicit use of resources, and providing financing for armed conflict. So preventing corruption, promoting transparency, and strengthening institutions is crucial if the targets foreseen in the Sustainable Development Goals are to be met. The 2022 International Anti-Corruption Day, in short also known as IHRD 2022, seeks to highlight the crucial link between the anti-corruption and peace, security, and development. At its core is the notion that tackling this crime is a right and responsibility of everyone, and that only through cooperation and involvement of each and every person and institution can we overcome the negative impact of this crime. States, government officials, civil servants, law enforcement officers, media representatives, the private sector, civil society, academia, and the public and the youth alike all have a role to play in uniting the world against corruption. The 2022 IHRD also marks the start of the efforts to mark the 20th anniversary of the UN Convention Against Corruption. So over the next year, culminating with IHRD 2023, we'll be reflecting on a world made better thanks to the collective push afforded by the convention, and crucially, what gaps remain to ensure this is a truly strong mechanism for the years ahead. When we look at the background of this day, corruption is a complex political and economical phenomenon that affects all countries. Corruption undermines democratic institutions, slows economic development, and contributes to the government instability. Corruption attacks the foundation of democratic institutions by distorting electoral processes, perverting the rule of law, and creating bureaucratic quagmires whose only reason for existing is the soliciting of bribes. Economic development is stunted because foreign direct investment is discouraged, and small business within the country often find it impossible to overcome the startup costs required because of corruption. On 31st October 2003, the General Assembly adopted the United Nations Convention Against Corruption and requested that the Secretary General designate the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, in short known as UNODC, as Secretariat for the Convention's Conference of the State Parties through Resolution 58 by 4. Since then, 188 parties have committed to the convention's anti-corruption obligations, showing near universal recognition of importance of good governance, accountability, and political commitment. The Assembly also designated 9th December as the International Anti-Corruption Day to raise awareness of the corruption of the role of convention in combating and preventing it. The convention entered into force in December 2005. As we move towards the 20th anniversary of UNCAC in October 2023, this convention and the values it promotes are most important than ever, which requires everyone to join efforts to tackle this crime. The United Nations Development Programme, in short known as UNDP, and the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, in short known as UNODC, and the Secretariat for the Convention's Conference of State Parties are at the forefront of ensuring world united against corruption. So democracy has facing certain global issues. Democracy is a universally recognized ideal and is one of the core values and principles of the United Nations. Democracy provides an environment for the protection and effective realization of human rights. It is also very much relevant as India stands the largest democratic nation in the world. The United Nations Convention Against Corruption, UNCAC, the United Nations Convention Against Corruption is the only legally binding universal anti-corruption instrument. The convention's far-reaching approach and the mandatory character of many of its provisions make it a unique tool for developing a comprehensive response to a global problem. The vast majority of United Nations member states are parties to the convention. And as already mentioned, 31st October 2003 by resolution 58 by 4, It was adopted by the UN General Assembly and came into force on 14 December 2005 in accordance with Article 68 of 1 with 140 signatories. And as of 18th November 2021, 189 nations are the parties who has ratified. And the text of the United Nations Convention Against Corruption was negotiated during 7 sessions of the Ad Hoc Committee for the negotiation of the Convention Against Corruption, held between 21st January 2002 and 1st October 2003. The convention covers 5 main areas: preventive measures, criminalization and law enforcement, international cooperation, asset recovery, and technical assistance and information exchange. The convention covers many different forms of corruptions, such as bribery, trading in influence, abuse of functions, and various acts of corruption in private sector. So an entire chapter of the convention is dedicated to the prevention with measures directed at both the public and private sector. And the convention requires countries to establish criminal and other offenses to cover a wide range of acts of corruption, if these are not already crimes under the domestic law. And countries are bound by the convention to render specific forms of mutual legal assistance in gathering and transferring evidence for use in the court to extradite offenders. And a highlight of the convention is the inclusion of a specific chapter on asset recovery aimed at returning assets to their rightful owners, including countries from which they have been taken illicitly. So let's briefly look at the convention highlights. As we have already mentioned, there are different chapters under this convention. Let's look at each of the chapters. Coming to prevention, corruption can be prosecuted after the fact, but first and foremost, it requires prevention. An entire chapter of the convention is dedicated to the prevention with measures directed at both public and private sectors. These include model preventive policies such as establishment of anti-corruption bodies and enhanced transparency in the financing of election campaigns and political parties. States must endeavor to ensure that their public services are subject to safeguards and promote efficiency, transparency, and recruitment based on merit. Once recruited, public servants should be subject to codes of conduct, requirements for financial and other disclosures, and appropriate disciplinary measures. Transparency and accountability in matters of public finance must also be promoted, and specific requirements are established for the prevention of corruption. In particularly, critical areas of the public sector, such as judiciary and public procurement, those who use public services must expect a high standard of conduct from their public servants. Preventing public corruption also requires an effort from all members of the society at large. For these reasons, the convention calls on countries to promote actively the involvement of non-governmental and community-based organizations, as well as other elements of civil society, and to raise public awareness of corruption and what can be done about it. Article 5 of the convention enjoins each state party to establish and promote effective practices aimed at the prevention of corruption. So looking at criminalization, the convention requires countries to establish criminal and other offenses to cover a wide range of acts of corruption. These are not already crimes under domestic law. In some cases, states are legally obliged to establish offenses. In other cases, in order to take into account differences in domestic law, they are required to consider doing so. The convention goes beyond previous instruments of this kind, criminalizing not only basic forms of corruption, such as bribery and the embezzlement of public funds, but also trading in influence and the concealment and laundering of the proceeds of corruption. Offenses committed in the support of corruption, including money laundering and obstructing justice, are also dealt with. Convention offenses are also dealt with the problematic areas of a private sector corruption. Looking at international cooperation, countries agreed to cooperate with one another in every aspect to fight against corruption, including prevention, investigation, and the prosecution of offenders. Countries are bound by the convention to render specific forms of mutual legal assistance in gathering and transferring evidence for the use in the court to extradite offenders. Countries are also required to undertake measures which will support the tracing, freezing, seizure, and confiscation of the proceeds of corruption. Looking at asset recovery, in a major breakthrough, countries agreed on asset recovery, which is stated explicitly as a fundamental principle of the convention. This is particularly important issue for many developing countries where high level of corruption has plundered the national wealth and where resources are badly needed for reconstruction and rehabilitation of societies under new governments. So reaching agreement on this chapter has involved intensive negotiations as the need of the countries seeking the illicit assets had to be reconciled with the legal and procedural safeguards of the countries whose assistance is sought. Several provisions specify how cooperation and assistance will be rendered. In particular, in case of embezzlement of public funds, the confiscated property would be returned to the state requesting it. In case of proceeds of any other offense covered by the convention, the property would be returned providing the proof of ownership or recognition of the damage caused to a requesting state. In all other cases, priority consideration would be given to the return of confiscated property to the requesting state, to the return of such property to the prior legitimate owners, or to the compensation of the victims. So effective asset recovery provisions will support the efforts of countries to redress the worst effects of corruption, while sending at the same time a message to corrupt officials that there will be no place to hide their illicit assets. Accordingly, Article 51 provides for the return of assets to countries of origin as a fundamental principle of this convention. Article 43 obliges state parties to extend the widest possible cooperation to each other in the investigation and prosecution of offenses defined in the convention. With regard to asset recovery in particular, the article provides inter alia that in matters of international cooperation, whether dual criminality is considered a requirement, it shall be deemed fulfilled irrespective of whether the loss of required state party place the offense within the same category of offense or denominate the offense by the same terminology as the requesting state party if the conduct underlying the offense for which assistance is sought is a criminal offense under the laws of both state parties. So these are the highlights of the convention on various chapters. So India also is a party for the convention signed and ratified on 9th December 2005 and 9th May 2011, apart from many other countries. So let's watch a short video. So we'll be moving on with the other commemoration by concluding this commemoration for the day. So let's unite together on this International Anti-Corruption Day, promoting freedom and human rights. Tomorrow we will be looking at anti-corruption institution, organizations, and the framework within the country. In any way, we have the same theme in tomorrow's conference. And let's look at the other commemoration, International Day of Commemoration and Dignity of the Victims of the Crime of Genocide and of the Prevention of this Crime. So this year, the theme is the role of sports in atrocity prevention. So sport has been historically been a key mechanism for bringing communities together across the divides and can be important vehicle for promoting positive messages that contribute to the social inclusion and cohesion, strengthening understanding and respect for diversity and reducing stereotypes. Beyond its capacity to unite people at local, national, and global levels, sport is increasingly used as a vehicle to empower youth and women and improve well-being and health, support education and social development objectives, and strengthen the resilience of individuals and communities. Around the globe, the power of sports is being harnessed to support agendas for peace, development, and increasingly the prevention of risks of atrocity crimes. So this year's event will be dedicated to the role of sports in promoting peace and inclusion and highlighting ways in which it can campaign prevention of atrocity crimes through its work and outreach. As quoted by UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, ultimately preventing genocide involves all of society. It's crucial that we all join hands together to defend the principles of equality and human dignity and to repair the fissures of and polarization that are so prevalent in the society. So looking at the background, by its resolution 69 by 323 of 29 September 2015, the United Nations General Assembly established 9th December as the International Day of Commemoration and Dignity of the Victims of the Crime of Genocide and of Prevention of this Crime. 9th December 2022 marks the International Day of Commemoration and Dignity of the Victims of the Crime of Genocide and of the Prevention of this Crime, as well as the 74th anniversary of the 1948 Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of Crime of the Genocide Convention, in short, known. The first human rights treaty adopted by the General Assembly. The convention signifies the international community's commitment to never again and provides the first international legal definition of genocide, widely adopted at national and international levels. It also established a duty for the state parties to prevent and punish the crime of genocide. Every year, the United Nations Office on Genocide Prevention and Responsibly Protect organizes events to mark this International Day, honoring the victims' genocide and the anniversary of the convention. The Genocide Convention, Article 2, defines genocide as any of the following acts committed with intent to destroy in whole or in part a national, ethical, or ethnical, or racial, or religious group, including killing members of the group, causing serious bodily or mental harm to the members of the group, deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part, imposing measures intended to prevent births within the group, forcibly transferring children of the group to one other group or to another group. The convention confirms that genocide, whether committed in time of peace or war, is a crime under international law, which parties to the convention undertaken to prevent and to punish. As mentioned in Article 1, the primary responsibility to prevent and stop genocides lies within the state. So, to prevent genocide and genocidal conflicts, it is critically important to understand their root causes. While conflict has many causes, genocidal conflict is identity-based. Genocide and related atrocities tend to occur in societies with diverse national, racial, ethnic, or religious groups that are looked in identity-related conflicts. It is not simply differences in identity, whether real or perceived, that generate conflict, but the implication of those differences in terms of access to power and wealth, services and resources, employment, development opportunities, citizenship, and also the enjoyment of fundamental rights and freedoms. These conflicts are fomented by discrimination, hate speech, inciting violence, and other violations of the human rights. In terms of prevention, the critical step is to identify the factors, discriminatory practices in a given situation that lead or account to acute disparities in the treatment of diverse population, and to seek ways to diminish and eventually eradicate these possible causes of genocidal violence. Given that no country is preferably homogeneous, genocide is a truly global challenge. At the 2005 World Summit, member states committed to protect their populations from genocide, war crimes, and ethnic cleansing, and the crimes against humanity, as well as their incitement. They agreed that when states require assistance to fulfill that responsibility, the international community must be ready to assist them. When states manifestly fail to protect their populations from those crimes, the international community must be ready to take action collectively in accordance with the United Nations Charter. Intervention only happens when prevention fails. Therefore, prevention is the basis of the preventive principle of responsibility to protect. And these pillars of responsibility to protect are articulated in the outcome document of the World Summit Resolution 60 by 1, para 138 to 140 pages, and formulated in the Secretary General's 2009 report 63 by 677 on implementing the responsibility to protect. The political commitment made by the member states in 2005 is deeply rooted in international law, including the Genocide Convention. The special advisors on the prevention of genocide and on responsibility to protect work together to advance national and international efforts to protect populations from genocide, war crimes, ethnic cleansing, and crimes against humanity, including their incitement. One of their main tasks is to collect information on situations where there may be risk of genocide, war crimes, ethnic cleansing, and crime against humanity, based on the risk factors outlined in the framework of analysis for atrocity crimes. Due to sensitive nature of their mandate, much of the office's work remains outside of the public eye. However, when the special advisors assess that making or marking their consumers public will reduce the risk of atrocity crimes in a specific situation. They do so by issuing public statements and, upon request, by briefing the Security Council. So, advisors of the Council for the Convention, Alice Valerie Nedritu of Kenya was appointed as a special advisor of Secretary General on the prevention of genocide on 10th November 2020. George William Obo of Uganda was appointed as special advisor of the Secretary General on the responsibility to protect on 6th December 2021. The mandates of two special advisors are distinct but complementary. So the outreach program on 1994, genocide against Tutsi in Rwanda, and the United Nations focuses on preventing genocide by learning the lessons of the genocide in order to help prevent similar acts in future, and supporting survivors by raising awareness of the lasting impact of genocide, particularly on widows, orphans, and victims of sexual violence, and the challenges that they still face today. So let's learn the fast and safeguard our future. So let's watch a short video.
The first action was to create new families. We call it the artificial families, where we group our members in small groups between 15 to 20 people. In those families is where all our lives belongs. We have find the new sisters and brothers, we have find the parents, then we help each other in every activities. The prevention of genocide, I think all is about education. How do we engage the communities? How do we especially educate young people?
Jer mladi ljudi u te aktivnosti ulaze iskreno, bez ikakvih predrasuda i mislim da su mladi ti koji mogu i taj proces voditi i koji mogu iznijeti taj proces bez ikakvih problema. Nažalost, uz dužno poštovanje smatramo da starije generacije su pokazale da nažalost to nisu uspjeli.
Zato što dosta njih ne vidi izlaz, jednostavno samo žele da odu van granica Bosne i Hercegovine, a zapravo na mlađima svijet ostaje i ukoliko se svi zajedno potrudimo, ne sumnjam da ćemo napraviti nešto bolje.
that the crimes against the Yazidi people clearly constituted genocide.
تشتكنا ما بسري ما نهات كرن بسلاحة هات ما دبي أمردك يوان بكن إنه أم هينا أميت قوي بن وأم كارن يعني تشتكي إجملاتي خورا بكن أو بشر هاتنا ما وكو تفكيكي تشي بكن بس أمي بسلام ومحبة وآزادية أمي حتى هيا أمي محاولة بي تشتكن هكا أم كاربن بعيشن يعني جي هبونا خبتر تشي بكن.
So with this, we shall conclude the commemorations of International Day of Commemoration and Dignity of the Victims of the Crime of Genocide and of this prevention of this crime. With concluding that we are pleased to observe these events with sobriety and awareness. Genocide is a crime frowned upon for violating human rights. And there's been a joint effort by the United Nations to end this evil. And in the history of humanity, genocide stands as one of the greatest crimes and evils perpetrated by man against man or humans against humans. It constitutes the deliberate killing and maiming of a nation, group, ethnic unit, tribe, religious, or political unit to destroy or wipe them out, including women and children of such affiliations. Historically, stories of genocide and massacre of groups of people, religious and political units exist in several history books and religious texts, even which recorded the destructions of various communities. But the first official record of genocide can be traced down to the Punic Wars in 3rd century BC between Carthage and Rome, which resulted in the destruction of Carthage cities, the death of millions, and the condemnation of the meager survivors into slavery. Following the killings of the Punic people, several cases of genocide continued to appear all over the world. China had over 2 lakh of Wuhu and Ji people massacred Congo under Leopold II of Belgium saw 2 to 15 million Congolese dying under his oppression. Ethiopia, Russia, and Germany reached a high peak during the Second World War, with the particular horror of the Holocaust, which saw the organization death of about 6 million Jews under the Nazi German rule, both out of hatred and dislike. The evils and propaganda of genocide tend to carry on even till later generations in many cases. So the International Day of Commemoration and Dignity of the Victims of the Crime of Genocide and of the prevention of this crime is a day to remind all of us of humanity to hold a remembrance for these and those who have died due to genocide, and also lend our voices against the evil act in places where it is still occurring and prevent against future occurrences. So in 2021, 6 countries were said to be perpetuating genocide within their borders. These include China, Ethiopia, Iraq, South Sudan, Myanmar, and Syria. These are the major countries. But apart from these countries, there are many other countries where such acts are being observed. And when we look at the characteristics of the perpetuated governments or the genocide, totalitarian governments, most genocides are perpetuated under authoritarian governments by dictators. And throughout history, genocide is mainly directed towards the minority, an attack on minorities. Again, here I mentioned a caution of word minorities. Again, minorities and majorities differ from nation to nation and place to place and communities. Again, at certain place there may be minorities, and at certain place there may be majorities. So if we look at the religious grounds, we can see the majority of the religions are Christianity, and then next majority is Islam, and the third majority is Hindus. So the majority and minority varies from nation to nation. We have to keep this in mind when we are talking about minorities and majorities. So Raphael Lemkin coined the term of the Second World War, the term genocide. So the Convention on Prevention and Punishment, it was effected in 1951, as already mentioned, and the US ratified and joined in this movement in 1988. As already seen in the Rwanda genocide lasted about 100 days with over 8 lakh Tutsis dying. So this day also reminds us of why peace is important and should be cherished. It preaches love for one's neighbor, unity, and cooperation first above anything else. So we shall conclude this day commemoration. Then we'll move on to other commemoration of the day. International Day of Veterinary Medicine is also celebrated on December 9th. It recognizes the important work done by the organizations such as American Veterinary Medical Association, whose vision and mission is to promote a strong and unified veterinary sector that can protect animal as well as human health and welfare. So the practice of taking care of animals and preventing and curing diseases that ail them goes back all the way to Neolithic period, which contains the first recorded evidence of a cow that has undergone trepanation or trephination, a type of skull surgery involving the drilling of holes to treat injury or pain. Horse doctoring was one of the first organized veterinary professions to emerge in the Arabic world in 9th century because of the economic and military significance of horses. The horseshoe makers or farriers of London were even encouraged by the Lord Mayor to form a fellowship in 1356 to improve their practice of tending to horses. So professionalization efforts in France received a boost after the outbreak of rinderpest among the cattle, and the first veterinary school was established in 1762 by Claude Bourglat, who is now a legend in the field. Other societies linked to agriculture and industry also played a vital role in establishing the profession of veterinary care due to the overlapping interest between the fields. Britain got its first veterinary school in 1790, while America had to wait almost a century more for the public veterinary college, offering a 4-year degree in Iowa State University. According to the latest figures published by the American Veterinary Medical Association, there are 1,33,394 veterinarians in the US and 3,09,144 veterinary doctors in the Europe. The profession is only growing in global significance with the rise of zoonotic diseases that spread from animals to humans. So in 2nd millennium BC, the first extant record of veterinary medicine, the papyrus of Kahun from the 12th dynasty of Egypt, is known to be the first written record of veterinary medicine still in existence. In 3rd century BC, a treatise on horse medicine during the rule of Emperor Ashoka in India, a treatise titled Shalihotra Samhita, records that everywhere King Piyadasi Ashoka made 2 kinds of medicine available, medicine for people and medicine for animals. And as already mentioned, in 1762, the first veterinary school is established. Rinderpest or cattle plague sweeps through Europe in the 18th century and gives Claude Bourglat the opportunity to open the first veterinary school in Lyon, France. In 1863, American Veterinary Association was formed, and practitioners from 7 states in the US convinced to form the United States Veterinary Medical Association, in short known as USVMA, which became AVMA in 1898. So digitization has caught up with the sector as well. Ear tags and smart collars for livestock can monitor temperature, movement, and even catch early signs of disease by tracking their appetite. There are also sound diagnostic tools that can monitor respiratory illness, and intelligent applications for prediction, apart from advances in vaccine technology, are some of the recent trends in veterinary medicine. And pet wearables can now monitor mood, track exercises, and diagnose disease. Similarly, telemedicine is making healthcare access easier for people with animals. There is also a great growing interest in fruit, plant, and insect proteins, and sustainability in the pet food sector are the latest advances in pet care. So there are many options in the field of veterinary sciences. Apart from studying to be a medical professional, job role encompass nutrition, physiotherapy, ecology, research, writing, and so on in veterinary sciences. So if you have pets at home, but have been neglecting to take them to the pet clinic or hospital for their annual visit, now is the time to schedule it. Once they are examined, vaccinated, and groomed for the new year, maybe it's time for you to book a health checkup for yourself. As you say, prevention is better than cure. And veterinary doctors perform a vital job without recognition bestowed on a human doctor. Even if it's not a thankless job, they are definitely thankless than other doctors. So it's not a bad idea to set up the record straight today. Send them a note or card or express your gratitude for their service. So let's all express our gratitude to the veterinarians across the world. If you never had a pet, you are missing out. As Anatole France said, until one has loved an animal, a part of one's soul remains unawakened. Even if you have had pets before but don't have one currently, you can consider visiting your local animal shelter or adoption center. Take the plunge again and make a room for lovable creature. So research on cattle diseases led to the development of vaccine against the human papillomavirus, which causes cervical cancer in women. So cows help cure cervical cancer. Similarly, a vaccine developed for the poultry sector was the first anti-cancer vaccine for the humans. So poultry catalyzed the cancer cure. There are now many studies that showed increased blood pressure, cholesterol, and risk of stroke among families with pet animals. So pets improve our health. And as zoonotic diseases are rising, 60% of emerging diseases among humans are zoonotic or transmitted by animals, especially wildlife. Recent corona or COVID-19 virus is also, known to be caused through bats. Of course, there are various contradictory researches and reports that has revealed, but it is also under research and investigation still though, but still it is also widely to be known as zoonotic disease as per certain research. But still we have a good time for the outcome of the investigations, and recent report is also said, that has been leaked by the Wuhan lab itself, as one of the Wuhan, a scientist who was working earlier in Wuhan lab has recently released mentioned it in a book. So we are still awaiting of the truth about how this COVID-19 virus has spread across the globe and where it originated. So animal health is linked to human health. We also have a long-standing campaign that is One Health, animal health, plant health, and human health. Also includes environment health. So many medical breakthroughs in the veterinary field have helped to improve human health care and treatment. Apart from vaccines, even organ transplants were first developed in animal care. And of course, pet animals have great therapeutic abilities. And animal diseases is linked to human disease. We need to be more vigilant about animal health, welfare, and engagement if we are to assure a healthy human population. Ebola, Zika, and SARS all have animal origins, and more diseases are likely in the future if we don't alter the way we deal with animals. And despite the clear linkages with human health, animal doctors are sidelined in the medical profession and are not seen as equal to medical practitioners focused on humans. This discrimination has to end, and veterinarians must be recognized for serving a vital function in the healthcare sector as a whole. So we have similar commemorations like Animal Day and Animal Pain Awareness Day and National Hairball Awareness Day, Pet Dental Health Month, and various other months related to pets and animals. So we have another commemoration for the day. Lost and Found Day, which is celebrated in US. Especially December is brutal, reeling from the Thanksgiving leftovers and being back in the office as the Christmas countdown officially starts can mess up brains, especially in Western context as the year winds down and we begin taking a mental record of everything that has happened. It is important to note everything we found and lost in the last 12 months. So roll up your sleeves and get down to the business as we launch the search party for every item we have lost this year. So do you remember your first encounter with a communal lost and found box? A single shoe or old keys, a sharpener, a loose tie, or a single sandal, or anything from the pair or which you thought it was lost. And all we could find in the scrappery cardboard joint, or well, these boxes can trace their origin back to the hundreds of years. The first code for tracing lost property was written in the year 718, when Japanese monks included the service of returning the belongings of their people in their daily tasks. The courteous gesture was followed us since. Today, every public place has a lost and found box sustained by people who want to reunite the owner with their lost item. So this establishes the power of community. This is innate humanity in taking care of non-living things and mourning their loss. So to develop affection for the things that surround us, oftentimes the loss of these things can devastate us. Likewise, finding a lost item can be a source of immense serotonin. This is why we celebrate Lost and Found Day, a day dedicated to searching the things that we have lost. As we continue to research the origination and designation of this holiday, let us take a pledge to become better guardians of our belongings. We all can administer more caution in our lives, checking our pockets as we exit a venue, keeping records of the things we lend, and designating individual spaces for different things are all the ways in which we can improve our custodianship of valuable items. So French leader Napoleon establishes the first office for lost and found items in Paris in 1805. Paris Municipal Office Prefect Louis Lipine begins tracking down the owners of the collected lost items in 1893, the return of the order. And the second Friday of December is officially marked as Lost and Found Day in 2012. So what is the best way to avoid losing things? Be organized, keep your items in separate places. Additionally, be mindful of your things when you are exiting a place. And try to look out for identification on found possessions. Try to trace the owner by making loud announcements and handing over the goods to the nearest figure of authority. And when we look at the most commonly lost item, hope we all have experienced this. TV remotes are the most commonly lost or misplaced items, following by cell phone and the car keys, or for that matter, any keys are the most commonly lost or misplaced items. So the best way to figure out what stuff is missing or is to swipe your cupboard or look through your personal belongings. Soon enough, you will realize that you cannot find the shirt you wore last year or the necklace you wore to your promotion. So return other people's things. Sailing in the same boat by holding someone else's stuff. Let us change that. The second week of December is the best time to mend the bridges, fix relationships, and let go of things you have been holding on all the year. So return other people's things back to them. And go thrift shopping. We do not need a reason to go to thrift shopping. After all, it is good for your profit and the environment. But since we are talking about the value of lost stuff, why not hit up your local thrift shop and stake a claim on someone else's belongings? So, what are different ways to track your lost items? Mark the crime scene. Try to remember the last time you saw the lost items and revisit the place and search for it. Play the piper. Let your institution take the lead and trace back to the places where you may have lost your prized possession. Roll the camera, search through your phone for photographs of lost items and analyze the timeline of disappearance. And clean your room, shuffle through your room. There is a good chance your bed or the huge pile of clothes or any such piles have claimed it. And call for the backup. Ring up your friends and acquaintances and promise search party and look out for the lost things. And sometimes you never know what you are missing. So due to abundance of stuff around us and our love for novelty, oftentimes the misplaced stuff can truly slip our radar. So thankfully, we have an entire day dedicated to figuring out the things missing from our life with a weekend ahead to search for them. So use this wonderful weekend tomorrow and day after tomorrow to search for what you have lost, or at least to identify what you have lost and try to search for it. And it is a great way to wrap the year as we climb through our balance sheet and tally our assets and liabilities of the year. Lost and Found Day comes around the help to tally as our lives at the task of tracing your belongings to your year-end to-do list and donate the stuff you no longer need to Goodwill this end of calendar year. And it reminds us the value of things in this fast-paced world of bills and deadlines. We often forget the purpose of life and value of things. The somber knock of the weekend reminds us to value our things and cherish our memories we have with them. So apart from this, there are other commemorations today, like National Opal Apples Day, the vivid bright yellow apple with a crispy bite, if you all remember. And today is also National Pastry Day. And we all know what are pastries, right? And today is also National Llama Day and also Techno Day. So finally, look at this commemoration and we shall conclude today's sessions. Today is National Llama Day in US, and llamas aren't just adorable, majestic creatures. They are also big help to people all over the world. National Llama Day is a perfect day to appreciate one of the fuzziest farm animals around. And did you know they are also smart, social, and produce very soft wool? Some live as long as 30 years. Whether you are cuddling up with your favorite llama or sharing some fun llama facts with your friends and family, December 9th is your day to celebrate. And especially this is very much related as this is winter season and we all are looking for some real clothes to keep us warm. And llamas appeared throughout South America since back 10,000 BC. Archaeologists have identified llamas as a predominant veggie-eating creature in South America during this time. And in 1200, llamas are on the move since the ancient Incas didn't discover the wheel until the conquest of Peru in 1532, llamas served as the primary means of carrying supplies across rugged Andes region. In 1200s, in 1984, the US has banned llama imports in 1930s due to a disease outbreaks. The ban was lifted in 1984 for Chilean llamas, and the llama love keeps on growing. So let's there be llamas in 1984. And in 2019, the fluffy barn animals becomes a trendy collectible thanks to the game Fortnite. So llama toy trend since 2019. And there is also a trend for rent one, whether you are planning any birthday or occasion, llamas are sure to liven up any occasion. Lots of companies are ready to rent out their llamas for the day. So go out. It is in the Western context, not here. So need a new salt shaker? Want to add some funky new art to your home? Search online for some unique llama themed trinkets. So buy some llama themed home goods and go a petting zoo. They are one of the most popular animals at petting zoos because of their soft fur and gentle nature. Take some time to get up close and personal watch with a local llama. And they also make a great guard animals. Llamas charge at dogs or coyotes and have been known to make high-pitched screams when intruders approach. Llamas will come running to the sound of their owner's voice. They are gladly cozy up for a nice hug. They are loyal and cuddly. And similar to dogs, llamas can have a variety of special markings. However, their close relatives, alpacas, are also usually solid in color. They come in variety of patterns. And there are currently over 150,000 llamas in the country. They are more in the US than you might think, more common also. So they are super popular. Llamas make a lovable addition to almost any farm. In fact, farmers across the country have been adopting llamas since 1980s, and they show no signs of slowing down anytime soon. And llamas are known for enjoying human interactions. They can even go on outings with you, naturally curious and gentle. Llamas add joy to everyone around them. So llamas are cute on everything from birthday cards to embroidered pillows. Llamas have been trending. So National Llama Day is a perfect excuse to break out your no problem llama shirt. So with this, we shall conclude today's commemoration. We thank you all for joining us. So see you all tomorrow at 6 p.m. And as usual on Sunday, day after tomorrow, we have conference. So if there are any presentations, you all are invited and also participate and gain wonderful insights along with the e-certificates. So kindly fill up the feedback form for the day. Before leaving the platform. Dear friends, feedback form has been raised for this session. Quickly fill up the feedback form before leaving platform. So we thank you everyone for joining us. See you all tomorrow at 6 o'clock. Take care. Good night.